Hello, today I played a best of 5 against Maru for the TSL 8 qualifier, in which I had a pretty decent run until I met Maru in the final match to qualify, or not to qualify. Best of 5, it's pretty late in Korea, it's being played on the European server, which means that Maru has a decent amount of ping, somewhere between 250 and 240. And I decided to give a little commentary here to explain to you guys what I'm doing exactly and why I'm doing it exactly. So just start with the worker split. Pretty happy with how this worker split looks. Very quickly had a decent amount of workers on the close by patches. There's 4 close by patches on this map and you see all of them have 2 workers each. This can be pretty important for the timing of your first pylon, which we see go down at 17 seconds. If you mess up the early worker split, this can be as late as 19. I even see some guys do 20 seconds, even at the pro level. So very often you can see just by the worker split whether someone is feeling good and whether they're being focused, because it is just extremely important. My plan here on this first map, which is 2K Atmosphere, is to kind of scout around my base to make sure there's no proxies. Too many times have I lost to proxies in my natural, proxies around my base against Koreans, Beyond, Maru, Cure. All of them have done it against me with great success. So I just want to make sure that at least nothing close by can kill me. And I see everything close by. I'm mainly afraid of Proxy Reaper. I haven't seen Koreans do a lot of Proxy 2 or Proxy 3 racks, except for Dream. Dream is the only player that I've seen do that semi-consistently, but I'm playing against Maru, so I'm not too worried. Now, my follow-up is going to be a core before Nexus, but I send my probe down just to make sure there's no eBay block. I see the lack of an eBay block, and I go Nexus before core. Okay, I didn't actually remember that. My bad, guys. I get the Cyber Core as the next structure, and I want to go into Stargate. And the reason why Nexus before Core is so good, if you do end up going into a Stargate, is very simple. Your second gas is a lot faster than it is with Core before Nexus. So if you play Nexus into Core, you just have quicker gas, which allows you for a warp gate before you start your second unit. Which also means it's easier to defend a lot of things. Your first Stargate unit is out faster. I see his SEV moving in a little bit of a funky way. So right now I'm thinking, what do you want to do? And I see him throw down a bunker relatively late. I'm confused. And I just hope that I manage to take out this SEV. And in order for that to happen, we actually do need to get a little bit lucky. And I'm not getting very lucky, as I can't actually get the kills off. Now the Reaper arrives very quickly as well at 219. Now, this is at a timing which doesn't make much sense, so I know that he opened up with 2 gas, or at least I think he opened up with 2 gas at this point, or he has a very weird spot for the Reaper. Now, he finishes up the bunker, I can't do much about it anymore, and now I'm starting to realize that this bunker perhaps is actually in range of this battery, and it pisses me off. I'll have to cancel the battery here and follow up with 2 Stalkers. Second Reaper comes in as well, so at this point I'm feeling pretty bad about my position. He got the bunker up. I'm trying to kill that SCV so I can start working on the bunker. And now I realize that perhaps from my ramp I am going to be capable of attacking this bunker without Maru being able to attack my Stalker. So I'm actually pretty happy with this position right now. I'm gonna get a second Stalker. Will delay my first Stargate unit by a bit, but it's not actually the end of the world. On top of that, I also scout with my Adept to make sure nothing too funky is going on. I see, a factory, and I see a barracks probably producing Marines. I'm expecting something along the lines of a Widow Mine drop, maybe of a couple of Hellion drop, like a triple Hellion drop is also possible. I'm still happy with my position at this point. Like, it's not the end of the world. I just have to make sure that the bunker can't attack the Stalkers on the ramp. My first Oracle is out right now. I managed to snipe the SCV. And on top of that, I will also get the bunker without him being capable of cancelling that. And I'll also get both of the Reapers here with my Oracle, which I have to control a little bit, but I do manage to do that. I'm floating a fair amount of money, and I open with Twilight and 3 extra gateways, actually intending right now to go into Blink, because I'm not quite sure what he is doing. I'm afraid to just blindly go Phoenix. I saw something in front of me, but I'm not quite sure what it was. I just saw a unit on the minimap and on my screen, so I'm thinking it's a medevac. So I'm gonna go back home to find it. I find it, I start a Phoenix immediately, and I get caught slightly out of position with my Stalker, which is frustrating, but also not the end of the world. I don't want to go in with anything except my probes to clear these mines. He's too late on one of the burrows. And we actually see him burrow once more. I put out a revelation for no real reason, and I kill both of his mines and the medevac. I think he had 3 mines total, so got 1 medevac for free and 1 mine for free as well. Not the worst trade, honestly. This was his major aggression, and I managed to stop it relatively easily. Rather than opening with Blink, I decided to go into Charge and Phoenix instead. I'm afraid of perhaps a follow-up push, and I'm just in general afraid. I'm not a guy with a lot of courage, so I decided to get a couple of Phoenixes here. Start sending them across the map and immediately start my charge. I'm not quite sure whether I want to build a forge or if I just want to stick with what I have. I see the complete lack of extra barracks, and this actually makes me kind of happy. I'm like, hey, his stim and his combat shield are going to be late. And then in the back of my head is the thought that perhaps he has a fast 3rd CC already, as I'm not entirely aware of his economy situation. Like, I don't quite know what his eco is like. But it feels slightly too fast to be a 3rd CC before it. I immediately spot the Viking here in my main base. I think I end up losing 1 worker to this. Maybe 2 if I don't really... Well, he isn't controlling, I'm not controlling. If 2 players don't control, often the Protoss player wins. So you're gonna actually take out the Viking, only losing a single worker. This means that perhaps I can do some damage with my Phoenix and Oracle at this point. So I'm gonna send them across the map, just fly straight over and hope that everything is good in the world. Charge about to finish up. I get a forge as well, as I have seen his stim timing at this point. Need to be careful, of course, with these Phoenixes. Make sure I don't fly into anything I don't really want to fly into. I'm still afraid of his first push, because I truly do believe that he went 3 racks at this point. And because he did end up going for 3 racks before 3rd CC, I'm actually... well, I'm thinking a lot of things, but I'm mainly thinking I'm going to need my, my gateways quickly. So I'm going to go for a small probe cut. Continue building as many units as I can here. It's really just a small probe cut because I'm almost fully saturated on a 3rd base minerals. But I first want to go up to 8 gates. I throw down a revelation and I go back into worker production, as well as probably add another gas here. I really wouldn't mind adding another gas. Oh, Raven ends up going into my main base with a turret, but I have a battery there already kind of prepared for that, and I just need to pull away my probes. And I don't think I lose a single probe here. I might end up losing like a zealot or something like that, but so far he's just mainly been feeding me units, which is really good for me. I mean, I got a Raven, I got a medevac, and I got a Viking. That's 3 starport units that he won't have in his army. That's actually a pretty big deal. I'm surprised he sent the Raven around rather than keeping it with his army for some first push with mines. So whenever someone sends away 3 starport units, you start thinking, hey, perhaps I can go higher in eco, because his push is just going to be a lot weaker, right? He's probably thinking more of eco and harassing my eco. So what I decide to do here is to get another gas, get some pylon spread, and make sure I don't get supply blocked, which of course is it's always a difficult thing if you have 35 IQ like myself, and I look very happy at that. Lost, I think, a single Phoenix there, maybe 2 Phoenixes against a couple of burrowed Widow Mines. Didn't really get any return on these Phoenixes, so not only did I lose 2, but I also really haven't gotten anything out of him yet except killing his units, which, don't get me wrong, is really nice, but ideally I also get some damage done with him. Like, you don't want to invest 600 gas, you know, like 900 minerals into a unit that just flies around and make sure that he can't harass you. So yeah, I'm a little bit upset. I'm going to start throwing a couple of Oracle stasis wards around the map to stop an incoming push. And I want to send out a couple of zealots across the map as well to make sure that I can run by the moment that he moves out. Because the moment he moves out, I'm not actually sure if I can win a fight in which he pushes very slowly with high Widow Mine counts. That's the thing I'm the most afraid of. Oh, can't fit another Robo there. I want to get a second Robo. Another Archon. You don't want to get too many Archons because they're very gas intensive. Get a cannon just in case he wants to push forward with a lot of mines. Cannons are really nice to have. I see 1 Marine being sent out, so I'm gonna go find that. And I'm sending out a couple of Zealots as well towards the right side, just to make sure that I can kind of do what I want there. Oh, I thought he actually spotted me here, but I don't think he did. So I get these Zealots around. They'll be able to go into the 3rd base. Capable of picking up this unit. He walked into a stasis as well. My 4th base is already on the way, and I get my Zealot round by in, so altogether a pretty decent start for me. I make sure to position my Zealot so that the tank splashes on top of his SCVs there, and I can now start my big transition, which is the most important thing. If I can survive into Colossi, I feel like I'm in a really good spot because I have complete map control. I have decent enough upgrades, and once I get Colossi out, my army will be superior because he just doesn't have that many starport units. Don't forget, he lost 3 already, and those 3 units were all produced without having a reactor on it. It's a lot of gas and it's a lot of starport time that's being invested in that, and that's going to definitely give me a bit of an edge if I manage to survive onto Colossi. So this push out of me seems weird and risky, but it's actually a fake push out. I just wanted to bait him into attacking me and perhaps just, you know, keep him on his side of the map a bit. My Zealot run by gets in and he doesn't respond for it for almost 5 seconds, which is really odd. You almost never see that. So I end up killing, I think, 8, 9, maybe even 10 SCVs here. I didn't quite pay attention to the entire run by, but I do get a decent amount. Clean up a mine here on the left side. And I just gotta make sure that I get a lot of static defense at this point, because I'm in such a good position and I kind of want to kill the game in that I want it to be a really slow and stable game in which no chaos happens, because Maru is insanely good when it comes to chaos. He's way better than me when there's chaos. Like, he's faster, he's smarter, his control is better, even though we are with ping. Like, the moment the game is very stable and I'm ahead, I can definitely leverage an advantage like I have in this game. But if the game becomes very chaotic, with his superior decision making and his superior mechanics, and well, his superior everything really, he can make the difference in the game and probably come back. I see he's going for a bit of an army split, and I'm very afraid of him now starting to do exactly what I mentioned just now, and that is make a chaos and be annoying in general. So I split up my army in 2 very manageable groups. One with Phoenix, a single Colossi, a bunch of Zealots, 1 or 2 DTs as well. And this army doesn't look like it synergizes well, but it's the perfect type of army to deal with run-bys and to deal with counterattacks. Because you don't need to look at it too much, and it's a tricky army to deal with. If neither of these armies are microed, which most of the time is the case, like he might kite once or twice, but he can't control it perfectly, then my army will win. And that's the type of army you want to have to deal with run-bys. I also kind of want to have an observer with this army, just so I don't die against mines completely. My other army, my main army, as I will refer to it in my head, and well, when speaking to you guys as well, which is also kind of happening in my head, I will be controlling more carefully, and I does have a little more complex army, including Blinkstalkers, Sentries, and Disruptors. Still gonna make sure to dodge any EMPs. That's exactly what I did. I try to pick up as much as I can here and push back this army. This is very good. This also makes Maru believe that perhaps my entire army is there, because most foreigners are relatively bad at splitting armies. This emboldened him to move across the map and actually try and cancel my 5th phase. But I was there because I'm not like the other foreigners. No, I actually managed to split my army. Good job, Kevin. Send a single unit over there and I continue disruptor production. And at this point, I'm so confident in my army that what I really want is to fight. And I want to fight as fast as I can as well. Like, the quicker I can fight, the worse his army. I haven't seen a single Viking yet, and Liberators are even further away, which means if I can force him back, which is what I'm trying to do with my left side army at this point, trying to force that right side army back home, then I meet up with my entire army towards the right side, push into the 3rd base. That is my entire plan right now. And it kind of worked, because he's moving back, or at least moving towards the far right side. I'm trying to join up armies as fast as I can, and I make sure that I have a DT run by as well being set up. And clear a mine, I think. Yep. There's a couple more mines that I need to clear before I can truly engage into it. So all of these things are kind of delaying my push. I see his army moving out towards the left side, so I decide to warp some DTs, and this is where the cannons come in play. I am kind of prepared for a base trade. He isn't really. Blink forward, try to take out this tank, and now I realize, hey, wait a second, this guy most likely doesn't actually have anything at home. I see in the watchtower that he's going for a full-on base trade, but he won't be able to win it. I'm already taking out his first command center. He has a second command center that's going to go down, so his scans are going to run empty, which means that DTs in a base trade are going to be extremely overpowered. At this point, I do believe that he's coming back home, and I'm trying to position myself in a way to get the best value out of this army. And, well, I get some pretty darn decent disruptor shots there. With these disruptor shots, and with the fact that I have way better eco than my opponent at this point. I killed his natural, and I killed his 3rd base. Even though this fight, I will not be able to straight up win the game, I believe that I might just be able to kind of leverage this advantage into a relatively easy win. So I can stay here as long as I want while I'm producing more gateways. I make sure I'm rebuilding the expensive units that I just lost. Disruptors, Colossi, well, mainly Disruptors honestly. I'm trying to get rid of some of my money because I do have a little bit too much money. I didn't prepare well for this scenario. I was more prepared for a scenario in which a lot of small trades happen, but not one big trade, because my production wasn't quite fit for that. My opponent has probably slightly better production than me, and we actually see me losing that fight because of it. So I decided to go back, and at this point there's two options for him. He either can turtle up really hard, or he can decide to go for a counterattack. And in both cases, I think my own DT counterattack will be absolutely fantastic. He decides to actually kind of turtle up and try to make sure that he doesn't lose. So I'm pushing here forward, pretending to want to fight. You know, throw a Disruptor in, throw another Disruptor shot. Perhaps a little bit risky out of me. I don't need to do this. Could wait for my gates to finish, but at the same time, I mean, I do want to leverage win. I am fully aware that the longer the game goes, the more his skill is going to come into play, and I'm just afraid of facing him in a bit of an even game, which I want to really avoid at all costs. I go in with the DTs. I saw that there was a mine close by, but he had no detection, so he wasn't capable of shooting at me. And we'll see the line here, I think, for a second. GG gets called as the planetary gets shot, and I win game number 1 in, well, I don't want to say decisive fashion, but it wasn't difficult either. Let's hop into game number 2. Game 2 is played on Burling ground, and I have a bit of a special strategy there. It's where I put my pylon on the low ground at 13 supply, get a gateway at 14 supply, and then send my adepts across the map very quickly and try to cancel his low ground CC, maybe try to do a little bit of damage. Once again, very important to get these probe splits correct. I do get them correct. I was feeling rather fast. Also a little bit nervous, as I can't recall the last time I was up against a player this good. Usually when I play against Clam, Maru, Serral, Cure, Zest, Trap, these guys just obliterate me. Like, it isn't really that close, you know? It's very frustrating to play against someone that is this much better than you, where it feels like the moment you get an advantage, you need to push it so hard and just leverage it to the max in order to get a win. Like, it's obvious to me that these players are just better, and yeah, you try to take any advantage you can get. And for them, it's also quite frustrating because everyone, especially if I recall against Serral, is he'd always be playing against complete idiotic strategies, like completely idiotic strategies. Never a standard game. Always a no scout, like some greedy crap, hidden bases, proxy stargates. There's always something going on, you know? And I think Maru, for me, is a similar opponent, where it's like, okay, like I actually feel like there's no way that I can beat him in a standard game. I'm gonna need to pull out all stops. He actually decides to go for another proxy Rex. I don't actually mind that too much, because if the game is weird in the early game, I actually feel really good in that. I can't find where his proxy Rex is. I scouted close by early on, but I don't see it. I see the timing on his SCV though, and that surprises me. In my mind, this was a fake bunker. It didn't feel real to me whatsoever. And then he also stops building it, so I'm like, okay, it is a fake bunker. He didn't proxy. And after seeing this, I decide to send my adept across the map, start my warp gate, and get a stalker. Stalker and then a warp gate. Chrono my stalker as well, because I want to probably contest. And then I see his Reaper come into my main base, and I'm kind of shocked. I'm like, wait, what is this guy doing? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. Tries to kill my worker. I managed to micro well enough there. This part is always kind of tricky. End up losing one worker, I think, to the Reaper. But he also lost his SCV, and he has his barracks proxied somewhere. Also started a bunker, which never finished. And I'll end up actually... Do I kill this Reaper? I think I might be able to. Yep. End up killing that Reaper. My adept didn't make it across the map, because I'm slow as a turtle, especially compared to my opponent. And I'm not quite sure what to do now, because my my plan kind of got thrown off. I throw down a couple of gateways because I feel like there is potential for me to attack him. His barracks at home. There's also potential for him to attack me, and I just want to get as many units as I can. I'm like, okay, if I just get a crap ton of units, it's going to be really difficult for my opponent to take a natural. And I also see that he didn't get a very fast tech lab on the factory, if I recall correctly, and that kind of emboldened me. I was like, ooh, that's sick. There might be some potential there. So I get a pylon over here. And yeah, I honestly feel pretty good about this entire situation. I make sure to get a couple of extra stalkers out. And I get a robo as a follow-up because I am afraid of an armory type of mine drop, you know, where the mines become invisible. I find the medevac. This is a really big deal. He's just done boosting as well. And I decide to go home rather than to push my advantage. I am not sure if this is the correct call. Even like looking back here, there's upsides and downsides. So I can keep him upstairs longer if I send across the map, but I might struggle more with the mine drop. I didn't know he was going to boost straight into my natural and just lose the mine drop again. Huge error out of my opponent. Absolutely massive error out of him. He gets one probe here. But don't forget, this is very dedicated because he opened up with 2 gas and a proxy. I decide to pull the last second, so I need to split my probes, so I get a little bit more money. He decides to unroot the Widow Mine, not believing that I actually sent back my units. But I did. So I actually get both Widow Mines, and I think it only got 1 kill total. Also killed the medevac. Now I'm allowed to move across the map. And like I said, I'm smelling blood in the water, you know. I see this poor swimmer, and I'm a shark. I'm like, I know if this swimmer gets to his gun, he's going to shoot me. And I don't want to get shot, because I'm a pretty stupid shark. Well, smart shark, perhaps, not wanting to get shot. So I decide, you know what, I'm going to go break my opponent here. So I still have that pylon from earlier, which I want to use. I check to make sure that he does indeed have a tank. And I think, hey, wait, I can shade in into his natural on top of his marines, tank the first shot with the adapt, which will splash on top of his marines. Then 3 zealots perhaps can tank a lot of the marine shots, while my stalkers can 2-shot the tank. Don't forget, you need 11 stalker shots to kill a tank. So, well, I have 6 stalkers. I can 2-shot him if I do this semi-correct. I don't do this semi-correct. Not the greatest micro. I require about 3 volleys. And he had a little more marines than I kind of expected. This was a complete failure. It might look good because I killed a tank, but I delayed my gases with it. I delayed my future infrastructure as well. 3 zealots added. That is 2 gateways that I'm not gonna have right now, which actually is a pretty huge error. I saw the Raven, so I get a battery in my main base. Another thing that is delaying my infrastructure already, which might actually annoy me a little bit later on in the game. I'm gonna be having a difficult time spending my money that I will get because I won't have enough gateways. Now, unless I do a full-on probe cut, for example, at this point. But like I said, I am greedy. I want to get ahead against Maru. I don't want to play an even game. I do get another battery because I am afraid. I'm not quite sure what the timings are going to be where my opponent attacks me. I saw a single tank and 2 mines, which means that the tech lab is a little bit delayed to get stim, but it's not going to be delayed too much. It's not like there was 4 tanks. At least I haven't seen those yet. I've seen a single tank, no cyclones, no nothing. Trying to get some info here with my observer because I'm really afraid of a move out. And I'm trying to fake my opponent into believing that I have blink by being very aggressive with my stalker. I've seen Classic do this move a couple of times, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty freaking smart. And I was like, oh, never thought of this. I built a cannon as well at my 3rd base here, which is going to delay my extra gateways, well, a little bit more even. So right now I see, hey, wait a second, his stim and his combat aren't even done yet. Get another cannon because I'm afraid of his push. And another cannon. So all of these extra cannons could have been 4 or 5 extra gateways. My first 3 zealots that I warped in could have been extra gateways. But rather than having extra gateways right now, I just have 3 gateways and I have a robotics facility. I'm also throwing down a Templar Archives. Why? I'm still not sure to this day. It doesn't make a lot of sense. However, if I can defend this choke and I can maybe force something out of him, I can win this game. And even without defending that choke necessarily, I can probably win this game if my thermal lens finishes up. So I see he didn't go for the choke, and now I'm like, oh, I'm going to be caught out of position. I see with my observer that he's moving towards this top area, and all of my cannons and my battery are on the wrong side. Thermal lens finishes up, My charge isn't even done yet. Try to kill as many of these Marines as I can. I try to micro back. I do have a super battery here, but without charge, without a lot of gateways, I'm actually in a bit of trouble. Now the gateways come down as I'm being attacked, but if charge finishes, I have another try. He doesn't have anything to really deal with the range of my Colossi unless he decides to move forward with the tank. But every single time he moves forward with the tank, he's gonna get shot at by my Colossi. So it's very difficult for him to push forward, and I am aware of this. I'm just kind of kiting back forward, back forward. Third Colossi shows up. I'm pretty confident about this. And I realize, wait a second, Vikings show up. That is not good news, because I have no anti-air, and I don't really have the luxury to maneuver, because I'm kind of out of space. This allows my opponent to push in with his Marine Marauder, and I'm kind of forced to attack into this, and well, let's just say that the attack kind of goes as you could expect. I have to tap out, lose game number 2. Pretty upset with myself, as my start was good. Just way too much money invested in things that I didn't need, and not enough money invested in things that I did need. Alright, 1-1 is the score. We'll head into game number 3. Alright, the next game is going to be played here on Glittering Ashes. And actually, I wanted to play Stargate on this map. And then one of my friends told me that Hero Marine was complaining on his stream about the fact that Blink Stalkers were way too good on Glittering Ashes. And I thought to myself, you know what, I made a great Blink Stalker guide the other day. I really like playing Blink Stalkers at the moment. I feel good about it. Let me just switch it up for a little bit, you know, let me just try out some Blink Stalkers. I've played Stargate once already. I played Robo Opener once as well. Why don't I just play some Blink Stalkers? What is the worst thing that can happen? It's kind of what I asked myself, and well, I could just straight up die to the first push. A little bit of backstory. Most of the time when Korean Terrans, specifically Korean Terrans, play against foreign Protoss players, what happens is the Korean Terran moves out with a medevac and a random amount of units, kills 12 workers, and then kills the Protoss with his first 2 medevacs with Stim and Combat Shield. Especially when foreign Protosses play Blink, because in order to play Blink, you need to be very on point of everything. You need to be very aware of where your opponent is moving to, and you just need to have very solid control as well. So, and I have none of these things, especially, well, I'm good at it, but if you compare me to Trap, or to how Stats was, or how Zest is, it's not a fair... It's not a fair comparison. They're just a little bit better than I am at controlling their units, at using their armies to make sure that nothing weird can happen to them. So I decide once again to scout for proxies close by. And here I saw the SCV come from a weird angle. So I'm just checking right now how this ramp worked again, because obviously it's still a new map. I'm not too sure. And I'm kind of believing that this might be a proxy Rex, but at a far away location again, because so far he's proxy Rex me every single game. He starts a bunker once again. I'm like, huh, that is odd and kind of weird, but it starts really late. And then I see this Reaper enter my main base. I'm like, that's also odd. And I'm still attacking his worker with my worker. I'm like, wait, I'm not going to be losing anything here, am I? I just need to make sure that this bunker doesn't come up. And as long as this bunker doesn't come up, I'm kind of going to be fine. So I see one more shot left. I send the Shade to chase his Reaper, make sure I don't lose anything. And I'm like, hey, he kind of locked himself in here because I have money for a Twilight Council. I have a second unit on the way. If I do this correctly, I'm gonna get his Reaper. Well, I don't do it correctly, so I don't get his Reaper, but the theory behind this was absolutely correct. Yeah, so I decided to just go look for the Reapers instead. Make sure to keep one unit at home so he can't run by. Of course, he doesn't know. I was very impressed by this, by the way. He managed to dodge shots like 3 times, even though he's playing with like 250 ping. I looked at this and was like, oh my god, he's like 5 times better than me. But he did mess up one, so he loses the Reaper. You can tank a second shot on the Reaper. It's actually a huge mistake. I'm surprised he even tried to do that on the amount of ping he's playing on. I go for Adept into Stalker with a Robo, and then Pylon my third base. I am aware that he's most likely going to get a Mine Drop into my main base soon, or... well, a Hellion drop is kind of unlikely with Reaper. I'm very happy that he opened Reaper, by the way. He hasn't been able to achieve anything so far. Get another Chrono Boost on my Twilight here. And I make sure to get as much vision on the right side and in front of my base as possible. So Gonna start patrolling this probe a little bit. Get another double warp in. I send my probe back to make sure that I can get, you know, a nexus up the moment I want to. And I hopefully throw another chrono boost on that Twilight. There we go, Kevin. Good job, buddy. You can do it. You can do it. Another pylon goes down. Probe should be patrolling an area. Actually, it's going to go across the map. I'm a fan of that. I'm surprised that my Adept didn't actually go there to deal with that Reaper. I'm like, I can send my Stalkers down like an idiot, but I can also not do that. So instead I keep my Stalkers kind of in the main base. And I'm trying to look for his medevac. I'm not quite seeing it. I'm like, huh, that's odd. Where are you at, Mr. Medevac? Hey, Mr. Medevac, where are you tonight? Oh, here it comes. I do spot it. I'm not really losing much of anything today. I think I can actually kill this. Didn't need to pull workers, but I did. I'm a safe and solid player. And now I want to fake a move out. So I don't keep any Stalkers on the edge, or I keep one Stalker on the edge. As I do say that, I keep all my Stalkers on the edge. Oh, I sent 2 over. Yeah, I just blink in. I kill both of the mines. I really didn't need to pull probes here, but I did. Now I'm gonna go for his medevac, and I'm like, hey, wait a second. I don't actually give a crap about this medevac. I'm just gonna move straight across the map. The likelihood of him having a second starport unit is super low, because that would be a huge risk. If his second starport unit, if he sends it out, another 2 mine drop, doesn't kill like 15 workers, A, he could die at home, because he doesn't have the luxury of having that unit at home. And B, his push is just going to be super delayed and it's going to be weak. So I'm not too worried about that. Technically, he could be getting Banshee, but also that I'm not worried about because the timing would be late. I mean, he opened with medevac. Jump into the main base. And because I have a third base, I don't need to kill anything. I just want to do a little bit of damage. And that's completely fine most of the time. So I get another unit kill. I see him move. I'm like, hey, wait a second. Is that a tank? Unsieged. Sadly, I think I actually could have kept going there. If I had 6 Stalkers, I can 2-shot, but I had 5. It was like, do I really want to do this? Looking back, I think I actually should have. I'm still in a good position though. I have a quick +1. I know that his stim in combat isn't going to be super fast. My eco is absolutely booming because I didn't lose any probes whatsoever. I have a 4th gas on the way. I still have Stalkers in his main base. I see him move his tank, and right now I'm just trying to bait his Raven to come forward. I'm like, hey, if I can get your Raven, this game is going to be absolutely banging for me. And even without getting the Raven, this game is kind of banging for me. I also see this tank at a cheeky location. I'm like, hey, this tank at this location, if I get 6 Stalkers, I can blink in and 2-shot him probably. So I'm considering all of these possibilities right now. I'm like, hey, well, like, what is good? I also build a Prism for the counterattack. I know he wants to go for a 3-Rex here. I see it, I understand it. And now I get the cannon after I got 8 gateways, learning from my mistakes that I made in that second game. Honestly, I never shoot it. That second game was not very good. That was very bad by me. Rookie moves. I see him unsiege. I'm kind of upset about it because I want to warp in another Stalker and go for it. And now I see his entire army is here. I'm like, hey, that's kind of interesting and weird. There's 1 tank in the main base, but I have 6 Stalkers, so I 2-shot it. Managed to take out some units here, and I go for the Raven. Don't get it. Lose a Stalker instead, but I do get the blink out. Warping a couple of Zealots on this bad boy. I haven't gotten a supply block once in this entire series so far, by the way. Now, I'm not one to brag, but that is pretty impressive if you ask me. I'm one to brag, by the way. That was pretty cool. Having some trouble getting those Zealots into the Prism. And once again, I want to go for that Raven, but he doesn't give me the opportunity. I send the Prism in immediately because I have a feeling that he's kind of all in here. That means he doesn't want to go home. If I can force him to go home again, I'm just going to be a very happy man. I get the drop in, and I see him right now. Now the most important thing happens. I see him pull away, and I see his unit still moving out. I'm like, okay, this is all in. This is it. It's now or never. All I need to do is not die. If I can not die, I win the game. So I warped in something here. I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to control that. I don't trust myself controlling that semi-well while I'm trying to hold this as well. He's unsieged. He's unsieged. He's moving forward still. I use Guardian Shield and I decide to go. I didn't want to get Seeker missile my entire army. Make sure that my Archons are getting good splash damage in. First 3 tanks are going down. Immortal in the back doing a lot of damage as well. Make sure that my Zealots can kind of reach that army. I still have the 3 Stalkers on the right side, which now should kind of be coming into play. My Prism will survive, I believe. I have no clue. I didn't pay attention to it one bit. Blink to the left side to make sure to keep the Stalkers alive. More important in this type of scenario, rather than trying to really kill him. Oh, GG, just to keep your stalkers alive. I'm very happy. 1 game away from qualifying for TSL 8. And probably the best position I've ever been in against a player of this caliber. So let's just head into to game number 4. Okay, game 4 is played on Pride of Altaris, one of the largest maps. And I was very surprised he kept this map in. He vetoed Blackburn. This map is just really good for Stargate and really good in general. I also think back of all the other games and I think to myself, this man proxied 3 times already. What is the chance he's going to proxy a 4th time while being down 2-1? So I decide at this point to not scout, just like I did in game number 1, and go for the same build order. I am going to scout close by locations for Reapers, just to make sure, just to be safe. It doesn't cost that much. It costs you maybe 40, 35, 40, 45 minerals. But it just gives that added safety here. Even opening up with gas first. This gives you more gas, a faster Stargate. If your opponent does any type of proxy in your natural, in your 3rd base, in your 4th base, you are 100% dead. I'm not even sure why I scout after opening with gas first. It just doesn't make sense. I also started second guessing how to place my gateway. So I am a little bit nervous at this point. My hands weren't shaking. I just was a little bit unsure of myself whether, like what to do. I sometimes have it where I start doubting my build orders, even though I played them like a million times, or I start doubting building positioning. Usually most things in a game, they kind of go automatic for me. But sometimes when the stakes go high, I have to manually remind myself to do things, which is the opposite of what should be happening. In ideal flow state, things just kind of come as they go. That wasn't the case here. I had to manually remind myself of a lot of things. It could be because of a lack of focus. Or other things which I can't identify. If I could identify them, then, well, I would be able to probably fix it. But it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it just happens. And you need to be capable of realizing when you're kind of distracted in this type of scenario. I see the scout come in at 152, and I don't believe this is a proxy Rex. I just don't believe it. I'm like, okay, this is not gonna be it. I'm still keeping my probe around just to be sure. I'm like, hey, like, you know, I've seen your tricks, but I really don't believe it at this point. So I do go home after the pylon finishes. I could have stayed down, but I decided not to. And I go for a Stargate to finish up my wall. The Stargate goes down 270. That's so ridiculous. That's actually such a fast Stargate. It is super silly how fast that is. Oh my god, I love this build order. Yeah, he didn't open up with a proxy. Very good for me, because I would have straight up died. Like no 2 ways around it, honestly. And I'm gonna send my first adept across the map. Chrono my natural. I said chrono my natural. Hello?
Yes, Executor.
Oh, I think I don't chrono my natural because I want to chrono my first unit, or what? Okay, this is a debatable decision, but I can't recall doing this. In my head, I thought I chronoed the natural. Well, I'm gonna be able to get a lot of units out at least. I was debating between Oracle and Phoenix. I decided to go for Phoenix. I see his thing is finished, and I chrono my Phoenix. Okay, this is odd. He opens up with Reactor Factory, and before this game, Drogo played him, and Drogo told me that he went double Hellion for mine. So I decide, rather than scouting what my opponent is doing, I'm gonna scout around my base with my first Phoenix to make sure there's no proxy starboard, and then I'm going to try to blind counter 4 mine double Hellion. And the way to blind counter 4 mine double Hellion is to chrono boost Phoenixes like your life depends on it, and don't show them to your opponent, okay? Just don't show them, no matter what you do. So that's what I do. I decide to keep all Phoenixes at home. I scout around for a starboard. I don't even want him to see my Phoenixes with his Hellion, because then he could decide not to do the drop. It is of course possible that he just opens up with 2 Hellion into Cyclone or 2 Hellion into 3rd CC. So even after seeing these 2 Hellions, I do get a little bit excited. I'm like, okay, this is good technically for me, but how good is it really? And I also still need to get a 3rd base. Like, it's nice and all to know what he's doing, but I also need a 3rd base at some point in my life. And he just killed my... oh no, wait, he's about to kill my first probe, I think. Yeah, he's about to kill my first probe with the Hellions. I'm like, well, this sucks. The timing for the mine drop is also almost over, so I'm like, well, this actually is going to suck. Then I see him fly in. I'm like, okay, I need to be quick. I need to always pick up the oldest mine that gets dropped. I run away, I pick, I get them all. No damage taken whatsoever. Well, second probe goes down at my 3rd base. I decided rather than going for the Hellions, I decided to go for the medevac because a follow-up drop could happen. Imagine he built more mines. I want to be able to deal with that. Extremely clean defense, which means I have a lot of money. 2 decisions I could make here. 1, I go tech straight away. Second decision, I build 2 extra adepts and I go across the map. If I want to go across the map, I should have killed the Hellion, so I didn't leave myself much of a choice. My third base is fast, and now I can start killing things that come out of buildings, basically, because he doesn't have anything at home. Don't forget his reactor was on his factory. I see a tank. He was preparing for a potential blink. This is one of the advantages of being capable of playing multiple builds. I'm like, hey, I can lift. And then I realized it was the Phoenix that isn't here yet. That had the energy. So it was kind of pain. Not the greatest SimCity out of me either, I have to admit. It's kind of painful, honestly. I could go for these SCVs, but I'm like, hey, if I just kill the army, and I see that he's going for 5 Rex before 3rd CC, this is basically as all-in as it comes. He's coming in with the Hellion, I kill it with my probe, and I get my upgrades. And at this point I'm thinking, hey, if I just survive, I think I win the game at this point. Like, there's no way I'm losing if I don't die. He's all-in, it's a large map, I have a lot of Phoenixes which can clear reinforcements. Like, this game should be really good for me. So at this point, all I'm caring about is making sure that he can't get across the map. Someone lags. I don't have a hotkey for pause anymore. I still try to pause. I mess it up. And I get another lag spike. I pause. I'm confused and I check my ping. Nothing weird there. Apologize to my opponent. Well, first explain what's going on. Then afterwards I apologize to my opponent. Seems fine, no ping. So probably one of the observers that decided to lag a little bit at a very unfortunate moment, because I feel like I actually could have done some real damage here with these Phoenixes had I not lagged there. And they actually really suck. I was kind of upset by that, but I also realized that as long as they stay alive, I'm fine. I see these Marines and I'm thinking, you can fight this. I can fight that. I'm gonna lose 1 Phoenix, but I kill 6, 7 Marines, and at this point I know that he's all in. So any trade which is cost effective for me, is a fantastic trade. I want to make sure that I can't die against drop either. I have +1 on the way for my Phoenixes, or I'm gonna start +1 right now. And I have the robotics facility. The second bad boy comes in, decides to go into my 3rd rather than going into the natural. I think that was a mistake. Dies against the cannon. Of course, he didn't know there was a cannon there. And once again, I just gotta make sure to not die. Pick up an SCV here, and I just want to stay alive. Just stay alive for as long as possible. Get a 5th gas. Kind of risky maybe at this point and not super necessary. I also now notice that I don't actually have a sentry yet, which I think is a mistake. No, I don't. That is a mistake. It's a huge mistake. I think I just warped it in though. Oh, get a mine for 1 shot. Yeah, okay, warped in a sentry, so that's good. Should be starting immortal production in my head at least. I should be. Got a couple of pylons for spotting. And I know it's all going to rely on this 1 push that he's gonna do. Pick up a couple more Marines. He decides to fight once again. I kill 6, 7 Marines. Lose no Phoenix here. Keep 9 of them alive. Kind of a big deal. Wanted to go again, but then decide, well, do I really need to? Let me just macro for a bit. Make sure that everything is going well at home. And I send them back in again. Make sure that I don't lose my Phoenixes flying into something stupid. Oh my god. Kill 1, kill 1 medevac, kill 1 medevac, kill 2 medevacs, lose 1 Phoenix. Good trade. Good trade for me, but do get a lot of damage on all of them. I have a crap ton of supply. And I decide that I can still kill some reinforcements. I probably should have sent my Phoenixes home a little bit faster, because now it's not going to get synced up with my main army. He has a Raven, I didn't realize that. Gets a big anti-armor missile as well. And we fight into a position where it's not actually good for me. All of his medevacs are gone, but the SCV is blocking a lot. My control here is very poor. I should be pulling back. I lose everything. Quick, another warp in. He can't stim another time though, because he doesn't have the medevacs. So I decide to go immediately for it again, lift some of the units. I'm losing a lot of these Phoenixes at this point though. And yeah, it's still looking okay for me, but not brilliant. Now I'm wise and I decide to pull back. I'm like, oh my god, so bad. How can I lose this? Trying to push out as many units as I can in Immortal. He did pull his SCV, which means he doesn't have a lot of reinforcements, but he is on 5 racks. And well, with 24, 25 workers, you can afford 5 racks. I'm so afraid of the moment his medevacs join in that I might just lose. My +2 armor is on the way. Once again, I decide to send my Phoenixes across. I also decide to go for a fort base. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I canceled a battery. So even though I am fully aware that he is on 25, 26 workers, I decide to start tacking, take a forward base. This makes really no sense. It's just poor decision making. Going behind with the Phoenixes is kind of cool because I kill reinforcements and I force him to all-in me even harder. However, I don't really need to do that because he's already all-in. He has nothing to go home to. It's like I killed everyone he loves, and then I also start killing people he doesn't love. It's like it's not necessary anymore. He already wants to take me out. I recall the Phoenixes right now, and I decide to move him. Not the greatest fight, but not enough medevacs. I have a lot of Archons, no shield. Now the Phoenixes come in, still not the greatest fight. A lot of Marines remain, but kind of the brunt of the tanking army is gone. I warp in more, and at this point I'm starting to realize that I've actually won the game. I have a fort base behind this. I have 10 gateways. And I'm very happy. Nice. Beauty. Smash like.